This is a fun episode, not down memory lane, but maybe analyze lane.
This is an episode where we mostly talk about the Substack event that I went to, and mostly and the interesting takeaways that I had from that. Like, I think they kind of span across like new media to speaking lessons to
creator, leadership, community,
new media. We talk about a lot of different things.
Have fun.
The importance of brands having fun and how people aren't doing it enough. The importance of doing things that you are interested in doing and how people respond to that. Mm-hmm. And then at the very beginning, we do a deep dive on my college reunion at RISD and all of my brand takeaways from that event, which I somehow then tie into the Substack event. So it's you can enjoy that.
It's impressive. You're going to want to watch it or listen to it. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in GoodCo, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to Good Thinking, a super fun, can't wait to enjoy this episode about the Substack event that you went to.
Yes, where somehow Kirsten will be doing most of the talking about this event because I'm losing my voice.
It should be an interesting one. But first, you went to your college reunion.
Yes, I also went to my college reunion, and it's hard to say if we should do that roast at the end or at the beginning of this podcast.
Roast.
So I went to RISD, and RISD is an amazing school, like incredible place. Like I give it all the props for like all the things that have happened to me. But wow, so it was lovely to see everyone. I had an amazing time with friends, but like it actually was like a really interesting. And I guess one of the things that someone said to me, because I met a lot of people who don't necessarily read Good Thinking, and they were like, "You have a lot of opinions," and I was like, "Yes." I've turned this into like a second career. I mean, I turned it into a first career and then I've turned it into a second career. But like, it's I can't go to anything anymore without having an opinion on how this is affecting brand.
Yeah. So let me try to explain this. So basically, whenever we go anywhere, like whether it's a hotel room, whether it's dinner, and certainly an event, which I think this podcast experiences a lot of, we go through the experience with like thinking through it through the consumer journey. So whether it's the size of the sink that you're trying to wash your hands in the hotel room that is like ridiculously small, the placement of the mirror, which we've had a whole episode on, trash can, the event. Okay. So that's kind of background to, yes, framing your opinions on experiences. I get it. I'm here for it.
I mean, I stayed in a very lovely hotel and it hit all the marks except for tiny sink with long size faucet. There was no full length mirror I could go on. But
don't take me there.
Anyway, I think what was really interesting is that so RISD, if you don't know what RISD is, and like we'll just analyze this from a brand perspective than like us recapping my reunion. But one of the things that's interesting about RISD is an incredibly artistic place. Like everybody who goes there has to do their first year only in the fine arts. So you do drawing, you do 3D, you do, and you do 2D, which is some sort of painting that's not drawing. And you do that for an entire year. So it is like foundationally set in the arts. And then you go out into these different majors and, some of them are more practical, some of them are not. So, like they're more fine art. But all of us have a fine arts background, like all of us. And that's quite different to a lot of other schools that you go to. Like you can go to do fine arts and like only you will do fine arts, right? Like, but many schools, like it's not everyone there is doing fine arts. So we show up at this. First of all, there's an artist ball when you're there at college that is like it's a Halloween party where you dress up and it's like obviously like everyone goes crazy and it's like really, really fun. It's a great time. Everybody loves it. They had an artist dance and there was no dressing up. So first of all, off brand. But B, get there and it's like there's a sad little step and repeat and like that was it. Like the logo was just like not even a logo. It was just the words RISD in like gigantic lettering. And I was just so baffled. I was like, wow, like, you have all these amazing students. Like, make this an exhibit, make this a showcase of like what you've missed. Then they did not have any events for us throughout the entire weekend of any classes that you could take. There were no art classes to take. There were no tours of the studio. There was no experience. Meanwhile, some of the people that I went to school with have become incredibly successful. Maybe you could argue that I too have become successful, but some of these
I would
people
argue that.
are, you know, very, very, very wealthy and very successful and excited about where they went to school. And you're not even giving them a chance to see, like, hey, here's where you were formed so that you can then get donations from these very successful people. There was no exposure to anything. It was like, hey, the museum is free for the weekend. Like, lovely. Like, we all live in places where we can go to excellent museums. What we can't do is experience the one differentiator of you as a school, which is all of these facilities that you have, like glass blowing, sculpture, furniture making, printmaking. Like, we all did all those things and all love those things. And most of us don't get to do those things on a regular basis. And what it
Mm.
made me realize is like, it goes back to, again, like, if you're going to do an event of any variety, you should really only be thinking about what the one thing is that you can offer that no one else can offer. Like, if you're not doing that, why are you doing this event? Period.
Yep. True statement. True statement. I think it's fascinating that, yeah, I think it's a totally true statement. I think it's interesting that you would want to take classes at your college reunion. That is not something that I would want to do at my college reunion,
Yeah, but
but
that's
connect,
like,
right.
yeah.
But it ties back to like, what is the one thing that you could do differently that you can kind of offer? And I think, clearly you, and I'm assuming many of your classmates would want that and to take the classes and experience that part of it. And then they could tie it back to donations. There's a whole kind of journey that they could do that would be very, very clear. And I would just want to go back to Boston and not take classes, but sit and drink and catch up with my fellow, which again is like something that Boston could offer.
And we did that. And that was the amazing part about it. But it was interesting. Like that. So then there was also like a dinner. And again, they had like very strange decor. It was like day glow colors, like neon pink, neon blue, neon green, none of which are the new brand colors, which are apparently everywhere at RISD that none of us really related to. So it's like the RISD's new brand colors are this, like, it's like a Yves Klein blue. It's beautiful blue, has nothing to do with the school in my opinion, but like whatever. But they didn't even use that. So you were just like, why? Someone said that it was like going to a trans coming out party. They were like, that's what I feel like I'm at right now. It's like when your trans friend is coming out and they want to throw a birthday party and they're a teenager, like that's what the party that we went to. It was like very happy, but nothing to do with like the people that were there. And like, they had all these like banners and things. And it was one of those situations where nothing connected. And the whole conversation was everyone who attended the event, the only thing you could talk about was how disconnected the event was from your experience at the school. And to me, like, again, it goes back to like, so many people, like when I go to so many brand events, and we can tie it to the Substack event that we're going to, but like one of the things that Substack did really well, I thought, was so the theme of Substack event was like, it was like this Back to the Future. It was called like Once Back. It had a very complicated name, but it was about like forward and backwards, like whatever. And it was very Back to the Future themed. And it was very over the top in terms of like the theme, but they really stuck to it. But what I loved, like that they had these really cool digital backdrops to everybody who was speaking. And they were always a little bit different and they changed like during the event. But they had this kind of like, when it was one person on the stage, they had this like halo around them. So they looked really big and important when they were on the stage. Like every photo you take is like the person looks really kind of like,
Wow.
it's
Grand.
I don't know, just grand, because it's
Yeah.
surrounded by this crazy halo, and it was all orange and white, which is, Substack's theme. And I, of course, wore the orange dress, and then everybody thought that I was an employee.
Okay. All right. So we're transitioning from.
No, but I'm gonna tie it back. I'm gonna make it back. But like one thing that did was that it like the decor elevated the experience, right? Like it took it to another level. Like, of course, the venue at Substack was also beautiful with these crazy high ceilings, which was a struggle acoustically, I will say. And like something to always think about is like there can be this beautiful place, but then like acoustics of two-story spaces, like when you're not controlling the people in the other spaces, is very challenging. But like the overall vibe made the whole thing feel more grand. And that was kind of the opposite at RISD, where like the decor and everything made it feel less grand. And you were like, I would rather have this just been a plain white tent and like not have thought about it. Like if you'd have just done, but it should
Yeah.
have been cool painted banners and like rad sculptures on the table by all of these rad like everyone was like, I want to buy things. Like I want to buy things from RISD's like alumni. Like that's all I want to do. Like jewelry makers at RISD are incredible. Like they have one of the most like historic jewelry programs, and like eventually afterwards, like we went to this, like there was a rained out like artist sale, and like I got a bunch of cool stuff. But like why are you not like celebrating what they're doing? So I think like generally speaking, like the takeaways that I have is like one, different, like make sure your differentiation is the thing that you like focus on the
Right.
most.
What's the one thing? What's the one
Right.
thing that you can do, you can offer that nobody else can?
Yeah, and I think that again, like this comes down to like it's like the facilities and the alumni and the crazy things that they're able to make and the beautiful things that they
Right.
can create are like that's the secret sauce of RISD. It's the people, the making, and the facilities. Like that's everything. And like why we didn't have this cool live drawing class, like instead of a lame dinner, like I have no idea. Like no idea. So anyway, I now have a life mission to be on the board of
Yes.
the
So I mean, clearly there's some follow up here. Hashtag at RISD. Like, we gotta.
help, like
Yeah.
always, like with all of this criticism that I always give, like whenever I'm critiquing anything. And it's like we were talking about this at the weekend, like our whole lives like at RISD is all critique. Like that's all you do. You just critique things. Like you make things and you critique things. Like you make things and you critique things. And it's never from a place of like this is bad, this is good. It's like this is my experience of this. Is this your intended experience of this? Like, that's basically a critique, right? Like, sometimes in fine arts, it'll be like, this thing is working and this thing is not. But, like, in general, like, it's like, this is how I feel about this thing, And, yeah, they should take some critique on their experience. But let's
Some
talk about
opportunity.
Substack. Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk
Okay.
about Substack.
Yeah. Because I think it's interesting. There's also, with RISD, also something to live up to, right, in everybody's mind. And they wanted that experience. Like, it sounds like everybody understandably really wanted that. So, yes, I think they should reach out to you. In 10 years, like, we'll come back, we'll do another pod, and we'll see what changes you've implemented. I can't wait to hear about it. Okay. Substack.
All right.
So this is the first event, like big event that Substack has done.
They have done some smaller events, like directly with some of the creators. Like they've done like a few events, to my knowledge. But the big, this is their first media summit, is what they were calling it.
Summit's the word I'm looking for. Yes.
Yes, it was their first big media summit. They invited me, which I was like, I am like beyond humbled.
Because it was an intimate list. Like it wasn't a lot of people. It wasn't thousands of people.
No, there was like 150 people there in the day. And then there was a lot of people who came in the evening, maybe because they were obviously like have full-time jobs, like, and, are working. But so Emily Sundberg referred to it as like, this is her Coachella, but like, that's kind of how it felt for me. Like I showed up and I was like, oh my God, like, like, it's like, I read you every day. Like I feel like oddly connected to so many of these people.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird, strange experience. And then I met some cool people that, weren't speaking that day, but lots of like, it was really nice to be in a room of people who have like a shared, I don't know, like it's interesting. They did a lot of they showed kind of how a lot of different people are doing a lot of different things with Substack. So I think it's interesting to say we have a shared passion, because I think it's like not everyone is using it obviously for writing. Like there's lots of different ways that people are using media on Substack and using it to create their own media companies. And they showed
Right.
that.
Well, that's cool.
Showcase.
That's interesting. But I do feel like, and we talk about this, and just, what Substack is truly like, feels like a real true community of creators. I would say, maybe default writers, but also kind of creators. And it feels like they're really like, that's really where community, the connection, the realness, the authority, kind of all of those things are really coming from. And I know like being in Substack comments kind of really like, that's now the social, the platform that you really live in. And then getting to the event, the physical part of it, did it feel like that? Because it was basically like you and all your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought I might see a few other people that I know there, but they weren't. Maybe they were traveling, maybe they weren't. But I saw a lot of amazing people. So I was figuring I would just like tell you about them and you can
Yeah,
ask me about them.
right. I'm here
But
for it. Yeah, I want to hear
so
it. I want to hear the experience. Take me through.
yeah, so I mean, beautiful space. Like again, the location of it was right by La Esquina. Do you remember La Esquina in New York?
Yes, yes.
Like right on the corner, there's La Esquina, or like right next to Jack's wife Frida.
Okay. Yep.
And it's this really cool building. And Christina Loff, who is the like head of creator
Hmm.
partnerships at Substack, she gave like a really fun introduction to the building because it has like a quite a big history. I've actually been there on an architectural tour, which says a lot about me.
Yes. Yes, it does.
But it used to be like it has like a pool. It's like it's a private house that you could rent for like 80 grand a month. But they rent it out for events, and like Heidi Klum and Seal used to live there, and it was the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like he lived there
It
for
gets
a
better and
while.
better.
And he built the pool for a set, which we were all saying like that would never happen today. Like you'd never be like, I need a pool in this like, townhouse in New York. And then someone would be like, yes, I'll put that in the budget. Not gonna
No,
happen.
definitely wouldn't happen.
But very, very cool space. And with a beautiful rooftop, like really cool venue. And I really I respect them for like choosing something very non-traditional, which felt like, kind of the essence of the gathering was like
Hmm.
a lot of people there had previously worked in like a traditional media setting, maybe. Like many people were previously like, like I used to work at Sports Illustrated, and, there's somebody there who used to work at the Washington Post, and like, like a lot of traditional, like maybe more media people, press, who've then gone on to create their own thing. There were like, like the guy from, do you remember High Times?
Do I remember High Times? Our house might have been in the cover of High Times for a particular episode a while ago.
Oh my God.
I know,
Well,
college. Yes.
so that founder guy, I think it was him, it was High Times, High Maintenance. But like
Might not remember if it was High Times.
he has a new concept that he was running that was very, very funny. And it's more like a video concept, but he's doing like a kind of like crazy, like, and they did like a really like interesting, like when you were watching it, you were like, is this part of the show? Like you were like not sure where you were and like what he was talking about. It was very, very funny.
Yep, I love this.
But yeah, and they had like a lot of interesting people there.
So a lot of characters dress-wise, anything interesting? People like styling it out, a lot of personalities.
No, no. I wore my orange dress. Again, it looked
Love
like
it.
I was an employee, and everyone was like,
Not
"Do you work
great.
at Substack?" And I was like, "That wasn't what I was going for with this dress." Not gonna lie. But anyway, got a lot of compliments on it anyway.
It's a great dress.
But yeah, so Emily Sundberg kicked off the morning, and she interviewed Dylan, whose last name I can never remember, who's the president of TBNP, and you know TBNP. And it was really interesting because I went up to her at the end, and it was so funny. I was saying to Christina that like Substack is clearly like a group of a lot of introverted people who are cosplaying as extroverts, because like it took a lot for us to all start to talk to one another.
Just silence, like a high school, like junior high
Like
dance.
Emily walked off the stage and like no one went up to talk to her initially. Like afterwards, like yes, they did. And maybe they were just trying to be more polite than I was and give her
Yeah.
her space. But like, if you were as famous as she is, like at a conference where you're kind of the main, like one of the biggest people, like you'd be swarmed. Like people would be like at the stage waiting for you to come off, like. And so I went up to her and I was like, told her did a great job. And like one of the things that she mentioned was that she was like, yeah, like Dylan and I really know each other. And that makes interviewing, because I was like, your interview was so good. Like she was an incredible interviewer. And I think that is a rare skill. Like I was
For sure.
surprised that she does not do more with this skill that she
Mm,
has.
cool.
I was like, like professional podcasters are not as necessarily as good as she is at interviewing. Like it was a really good interview. She asked really nice questions, didn't get in his way, but she was excited and engaging with the things that he was saying. Like it was great.
Mm, I
And
love
and
that.
he was very entertaining, and he was kind of giving the secret sauce of like how TBNP like
Should we
grew so quickly.
should we tell people what it is if people don't know? I feel like, I mean, I know it's just a
Well,
conversation between you and I, but there are listeners.
Well, if you don't know what TBNP is, just go Google it. You'll find that OpenAI bought them, and that they're one of like the biggest media like sensations of the minute. They do a live broadcast, and they do a live broadcast every day. It's really focused on the tech space, and like one of the things that Dylan was talking about is that like it was an interesting conversation because he was saying like, one, it seems like they were an overnight success, but like actually like the two founders like had, each grown their own audience like many times. Like, one has grown like a 500,000 like people on YouTube. And like, so it's not like they're not unfamiliar with what they're doing. And then he had previously done HQ trivia. Is that what it is? I love how I don't know any names, but
The memory thing
it's
is,
it's well, it's not the memory thing, it's just the names. I have a great memory. But he was talking about how like, like everyone attributes their overnight success to like it was an overnight success. And he's like, actually, like we've all been working really hard in this space and doing things adjacent to this space. But what is really like has been the real difference maker is that we're finally doing the thing that we wanted to do. The thing that we thought would be the thing that we wanted to listen to and the thing that we thought was missing. And we're making this show, like at the end of the day, they're making the show because it's what they wanted to make.
okay.
And that's why it's working.
But I feel like that's everything. And you and I have talked about it. We've done podcasts about it. And I also feel like that's probably like literally what everybody at the Substack Summit was about. Like they're all creating the thing that they want it to be versus an interpretation of what this boss wants to be or what these people want or anybody else wants. Like this, everybody's creating the thing that they want and think should be out there and enjoying the process doing it. And that is actually what makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So he talks about their process, and it's really like, because they go live every single day, right?
Wow.
So like it's a lot
Impressive.
for multiple hours a day. And so their whole team meets at a sauna, and
Tell me more.
then they go and work out together, and then they read the Wall Street Journal together, but separately. And then they talk about what they liked about it, and then they go on a live show and comment on it.
I
And
love this.
and he talks about how like, some people come and say like, oh, we have a scoop for you. We want to like do the guys can break the news. And they actually turn them away. And like, some people were like, that's really confusing. But like, he was like, but we were really clear that we're not the news. Like, we're more of a talk show, like about the news. And that's clear to us. Like, that's who we want to be. We don't want to be people who break the news. Like, that's not what we want to do. And so they connect
That's
them with the
very
journalists
cool.
that now know them. Yeah.
But that's very cool. And it also takes knowing who you are and what you want to do, because I'm sure there's kind of like shiny penny syndrome of like, it's a new thing and we could get a lot of buzz if we do this and we could get a lot of likes and a lot of followers and all the things if you're like hunting down that thing, but it's like has an end game. Whereas really
Yes.
knowing who they are and why they're creating, that's pretty great. I love that.
Yes. They also had something that I think would be very good for us when we decide to launch ads on this platform.
Great.
so part of the ad deal, first of all, they only sell ad likes for the year. You can only sign up if
Yeah.
you're going to do the whole year. And they go full out. They do it kind of more like F1 style, where they wear all the logos all the time on the hats, and they do these great ad reads, and the ad reads feel very much like who they are, but they also agree when they do the ad deal that they will get on the occasional call, and I don't know how they break it up in terms of time with all the advertisers for the year, but after the show airs, they do consulting for those advertisers. So they do a half an hour, you can ask us anything, we'll talk to you and we'll help you with your business. And now they're essentially doing that for OpenAI now that OpenAI has bought them. But that's sort of how that works. So they do the show, OpenAI is not involved in the show, and then they do the consulting for OpenAI afterwards. But
I love that
yeah,
model.
it's really interesting because I think the people that advertise with them see the value in them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Very fascinating. So if anyone's interested in that, let us know. And then Jasmine's son came on, and I won't do bit by bit by bit, so I'll just kind of talk about my favorite things from the day. But Jasmine's son is someone who is really kind of a rising star. She actually used to work at Substack, and she writes a lot about AI and tech mostly. And she said two things that I thought were interesting. I mean, she said a lot of things, to be honest. She said dozens of things that were interesting, but two that I think would be relevant for us to talk about. One was that she was saying that with AI, there's so much kind of people's AI, you were calling it is a
Yes,
your radar for spotting
right.
AI is really high.
Yes.
Mine is.
Very high.
Yes. So apparently people who use AI, I use it for various things, never for writing, but I use it to find the timestamps in our podcast, and I use it to make things all the time, little side projects that we have. I'm using it to make the job board, things like that. People who use AI have a particularly high awareness for spotting AI. They have a higher awareness. But she was saying that there's so much AI writing now that when you see the style, people's style, and I get this comment a lot, is people are oh, I just like the way you write. The style of your writing is I like that style of writing. And she was saying, my style's not for everyone, but I have a particular style, and that's appreciated now. Whereas previously, I think we'd kind of all stopped caring about writing styles. Or we're less aware of them, just kind of they were just there, and you never really thought about them before.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think because of AI writing, we're more aware of it. And then I think more people are aware of it, and I think more people care because of now the contrast to AI.
Yes. And so she was saying that typos and imperfections and things will be great. And I was wonderful, because that's definitely my issue. But then the other thing that I thought was really interesting that she said was it was about her process for talking about work. And I think that that's something that a lot of people on this podcast maybe could relate to, or listening to the podcast could relate to, is so she puts out a piece, and it might be for the New York Times, or it might be on her own Substack, she kind of doing both. But then after she writes this piece, she goes around and deliberately promotes the piece. She will go and approach people to do speaking events for that piece. And that sounds really obvious, but she is it takes a lot of work, and but then the momentum behind the piece, and the clarity behind the piece increases. And then she's and then I put out another piece, and and then I pitch and talk about it, and I go to companies. And I just thought it was really interesting that she is very deliberate about that. And she's only been doing it on her own, I think, for less than a year, but she's really honed in on this working. So
that's great. That's great. I mean, I think that kind of formula, or that process, I think we've heard. I don't think we're great based on discipline. We move on quickly to the next thing, but I think it is something that's super successful and thoughtful. And then, once you put something out, you kind of think, oh, well, everybody's heard it, but everybody hasn't heard it, and different things land to different people. So I think reinforcing that, reiterating that. And then to me, if I do a talk and doing it over and over again, I feel something different comes from it.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it was, like, it's interesting, like, yeah, I think it's just, like, every talk leads to kind of a new understanding of it, and you evolve it, right? Like, your cringe talk
Totally.
has evolved many, many times
100%.
over, and I think it's just interesting, and I thought it was worth sharing with people, because I think a lot of people put thought leadership out there, and then they, like, again, like I do, like, often move on. But, you know, Zoe Skaman, like all of these people have told me personally that this is their process. What else did I really, and there was so many great talks, and like it was interesting. They had all the different verticals. So they had sports, they had politics, they had, like
And is
kind of
that how they
humor.
kind of did it and organize it, or you just noticed there was somebody from kind of every vertical?
I mean, they definitely invited, like, I know that they deliberately kind of invited bestsellers from every vertical. So there's that. But food was a big part. Obviously, food does really, really well. They're really trying to grow out sports on Substack, so, like, it's interesting. One of the things that I loved about at the event is everyone who worked for Substack, like, walked around with these, like, lanyards with these gigantic signs on them, like the size of a 8.5 by 11, that says, "I work at Substack. Ask me for what you need."
So, like, general, like, during the actual conference, or like, "Hey,
All
here's all
day.
my thoughts. Here's all my thoughts that, like, things you can
Well, that
improve."
so, like, it was like they did a really nice job of having people who like, work on product, for example, and
Cool.
it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey," like, like, I didn't manage to talk to Zach, but Zach is one of the product people, and I did, but I was, like, chatting, and I wasn't asking for him for all the things I need,
Here's
but
here's my
he will
list.
be
Here's
hearing
my list.
well, he will be hearing from me, and I thought that, like, it was, like, really cool that they saw that as an opportunity, and they invited these different, it wasn't just people who were there, like, for creative partnerships, and, like, you know like, they saw that they were trying to also provide a service, which I thought was really nice.
Totally. I mean, I think this is like, I think it was pretty pivotal, right? Like, I think Substack is obviously a thing that's been out there. They, like, everybody's been going to it. It's to me like the leader of kind of all new media. Like, it's kind of, Substack is the place, and I think the example of new media. And I think it's interesting that this is the first event. And, honestly, I think it could have gone either way of like, are you really going to lean into it and show like, yeah, you guys are leading in this space and really doing it? Or is it going to be like, a meh conference? And it sounds like they really brought it home and they really understand where they want to get to, like leaned into the community and really creating something, and that it really felt special and unique.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like, it was fun. Like, they did a really good job. One of my favorite talks there was, you would have loved this talk. Like, loved. And I thought that they did a nice job of, like, doing panels and talks, and it
Mm,
wasn't, like, all the same thing, like, and the panels weren't really like panels, they were a little bit more like interviews, I would say, like,
nice.
sort of panel-y, but, like, a little bit more interview style. I thought it was really good. But so the Priya Parker, who is an author, and she wrote a book a while back called The Art of Gathering, and then her latest book is called The Art of Fighting. And and you wouldn't have been into the title, but then you would have been so into the talk. Because what she was talking about was, so she had everyone, like, she engaged the audience, like,
Mm.
so
Tell me,
you
tell
would have
me.
loved it.
Yes, I'm super into that.
But, like, the whole, like, premise of her talk, or my takeaway, because you never know if they're the same.
I'm here for
Don't
the
want to speak.
takeaway.
Yeah. The takeaway I had from her talk was that, like, we as a society, just generally speaking, have, like, become quite incapable of, like, spending time with people, and having conversations where we don't agree.
Yes.
Like, that you no longer put yourself, whether it be at work or in personal lives or even in your, like, Substack spheres, and not just, like, in
Mhm.
person, you do not put yourself in the, like, world of, like, discomfort with somebody else's perspective, whether that be politics, but people talked about marriage, people talked about, like, like, people talked about age, like, there was a lot of different things. And so she did this little exercise where she was like, she had these 5 points, and I won't be able to recap them. They were very good. And I will say, if you're going to book an offsite speaker, I would recommend her. She was great. But she had us turn to the neighbor, and my neighbor was the former founder of Food 52. I
Mm.
didn't know that at the time, probably for the best,
Yeah,
because
she
I
was
would have been
lovely.
like,
We talked to
oh
her
my
early
God.
on. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
like, I didn't recognize her. And I was like, Like, you're just a person here. And then it was like she was on stage later, and I was like, oh my God. But she was like, like, have a talk with one another about a fight that you guys that you've had in your life where you did come to a resolution, but it was a hard, and how did you come to that resolution even though it was difficult? And then she had people sharing, so she was like, does anyone want to share? And I was assuming, based on what I'd seen of the day, it was going to be crickets.
Crickets, just the entire audience.
But one person went, and of course, this is how it goes. It was like a little snowball. And then suddenly, it was like, she was like, I'm done. And people were like, actually, I really want to say my thing. I was like, okay. But it was just really interesting. And she had these points from her book, which she gave out copies to everyone. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's not out yet. But when it comes out, it was really interesting, about how to structure and think about your relationships and how to have uncomfortable conversations, how to be tolerant of uncomfortable situations, and how to resolve, how you don't have to agree to resolve something and to grow from it, to both grow from it, or many people to grow from it.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. Yes. I mean, having just taken a teenage social skills class for 18 weeks. I mean, I think it's such a skill. We've talked about it, that we're all kind of in these individual silos, and we're all, our people are all there, and you don't have kind of these conflicts in these conversations.
Yeah. And you do a lot of this kind of personally, and I feel like you get into this. So yeah, it was really, but it was also a reminder of how nice it is when you do talks to engage with the audience and to bring them into your talk. And everybody was it actually, I told Christina, I was I would have had that talk earlier in the day, because after that talk, it changed the mood of now I know somebody at this talk. And granted, I'd talked with a few people, Waleed was there, and I talked to him. He was very cool. So there were cool people, but it's hard to chat when you don't know somebody. So I thought it was
right. No, and I think going back to your introvert extrovert thing, I think is probably very true with Substack. So I think it's an interesting again, it ties back even to the RISD thing of what's really the environment, the vibe, and how do you do that? And it's probably a unique group of people. But I love that happened. And I think a heartfelt talk and a meaningful talk it can change the room. It can change. And I love that. I absolutely love that, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one of the other talks was I would say this was the panel interviewee one. It was a panel, but it was more kind of particular questions to each person. And so it was
versus everybody answered the same fucking question.
Right. And then you're round robining, and this
no one cares anymore.
No. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of panels. So I thought this panel
if that wasn't clear.
I thought this panel that Kate Lindsay did, who's the author of Embedded, and don't read her, but she does she interviews people a lot in her Substack, but she also writes really thoughtfully. And I had a happy hour drink with her afterwards. She's incredibly lovely. But she did a panel and she interviewed a bunch of people, but one of the people that she interviewed is Alice Ma, who is the founder of Mad Realities. And you think you don't know what Mad Realities is, but then you hear Shop Cats, which if you've watched anything on TikTok, then you probably know Shop Cats. And it's one of those made for TikTok web series. Do we call it web, or is that just that's redundant?
Series.
TikTok series. But it's a great show and I don't think it's just on TikTok. They're probably also on YouTube and all of the others. But it's a show where you go in and they go to see the bodega cats. Anyway, that wasn't what was interesting about it. But what she was talking about was that she now she's she was it kind of didn't really, again, I super relate to this. She was I didn't really start this to have this crazy media company where I now have advertisers. And so this one of the series, I can't remember if it was Shop Cats or another one, was done with Amazon. And it's one of the few shows where the show is very good. Not it was with Amazon, but you don't care that it's an Amazon show.
Right. Did they just pay for it, or does it feel integrated into Amazon? It just happens to be?
I haven't noticed. But she was talking about how she was like, yeah, like once you kind of get to this point, like she's like, yeah, like, you know, you should be looking at like, you have to kind of look at the data because the CFO is always breathing down the CMO's neck, like whenever they want to do something like off, like kind of unusual. And we need data to tell the CFO that everything is going to be okay. So she's like, so we track the data, but she's like, if I ever made anything based off of data, it would be something that no one would watch. And like, it's like, she's like, I would never make anything good ever again, essentially, if I came from the place of data. And I'd recently seen an interview with Kareem, who does this like Subway Talks, and he has a new show. And he said something almost identical where he was like, I put it out and I've never looked at what it does. Like, I've never looked to see if like this performed better than this performed, or if this one performed because I did this. Like, I can't optimize for creativity. Like, I can only just be creative. And
Hmm.
because if I optimize for the creativity, I'll kill the very thing that makes this thing successful.
Totally. Totally.
And I
And
think so
yeah.
many people don't understand that.
Well, it sounds like there is a very clear thread through everybody, but you have to really know who you are, what you're doing, who your audience is, like have a very clear vision of that in order to do that. And then it sounds like certainly in that case, she was using the data to support, but not to lead or to drive, which is very different
Yes. Yes. And well, so in one case, not using data at all,
at
and
all,
he
which,
doesn't care.
yeah.
And then the other one is like, yes, I realize that like, yeah, I have to play the game if you're selling the rights to the ads or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's just really like, I think it's a really interesting time, like, for a really long time, for the last 10 years, I would say, like, a lot of the conversations that we have with CMOs will be like, "Oh, the CFO can't, like, do that." Like, you know, like, there's this really, like, tense relationship between CFOs and CMOs. And I think that then there was this big shift to like, oh, well, I have all the data. But the reason that you had to have all the data was because the CFO was pushing to have the data. So you had all
Hmm.
of these CMOs become like performance marketers, like
Hmm.
all of them, like all like shifted around to answer to the CFO. And now we see that performance marketing, A, probably wasn't ever doing the things that you had the data on anyway, but it's certainly not doing it now. And then you have a bunch of CMOs who have absolutely no idea how to build brand or be genuinely creative.
Hmm.
And therefore, like the things that you're seeing come out of the brand aren't actually performing, because the truth is that you can't drive like great things from the data. So I think it's just a really like interesting lesson. And I think it's an interesting thing to see, like the people who are like, none of these people, like I would say almost anyone, has had a like Emily's Substack has only been around for like 3 years. Like, none of these people are like, oh, this is a legacy thing that they figured out. Like, no, they went in doing it this way to begin with. And they're the ones who are turning out to be successful from it. So I think the takeaway is like, you know, no more data. No, not saying no
Well,
more data, but
but I think wow, did my voice just change? The takeaways I think are so poignant coming from this group of people, right? Coming from like most everybody there created something because that's what they wanted to do, and that was something wasn't there, so they created it
mhm,
versus like, a boss or financial, like a VC or somebody saying like, we can make a lot of money here. Like they did it because they kind of desired to really do it. They're saying the thing and then reiterating, saying the thing, and then moving on to topics. Differentiation by writing, voicing, like, doing the actual thing in a real, like, human way,
yeah.
personality way.
Yeah. I think it was an educational day and a good reminder day, I feel like, of all the things that we say. Um, and maybe this is just my people, and I'm just like, I was surrounded by like people who agree with me, but like it was like one of the things that Chris Best, who's one of the founders of Substack, said in his opening remarks is like, I'm hoping that we're here to make you money and to make sure you have fun. Like that was like something to that. I'm paraphrasing terribly. He delivered the line better. But I think it's like that is very clear when you talk to everyone, and like everyone I talk to, like even so, like I saw Rose Florence, who writes this amazing art Substack you should follow. I saw Bess Kalb, who is she wrote the Buffalo Fluffalo, but she's also written like many other serious books. But in my house, that's what she's known for. She's quite famous in my house. It's a kid's book. And then Jaleel Johnson, and I met so many people, and everyone was just like having fun. Like everyone seemed like really happy to be there. Really like just like when you ask them about their work and what they were doing, they're like, yeah, like I don't really know like how I got here, but like here I am. And I just don't think that enough brands are really tapping into that energy.
Posted about it yesterday. I mean, I think that's kind of the perfect note to end on.
Yeah. So it was a really fun event. I'd highly recommend it if you get invited to another one.
Coming next time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would have jumped in the pool and then we would have never gotten invited back. So
Fair.
it's
Might
probably
happen.
good you didn't come to this one. But
All right. If you like this, share it with somebody.
And try not to make fun of my voice too much in the comments.
I'll make fun of it a little bit. All right. Till next time, stay curious.
Ciao, ciao. That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.